This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Ping.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio. Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. Joan and Janet are subtle energy empaths who navigate consciousness. Their passion is to support you in your evolution. As consciousness, we are all one. One mind, one heart, free of all limitations. Experience this reality with us and discover how it can make a difference in your daily living. Join us in a state of grace as we explore, with warmth and humor, this thing we call life. Now, here are Joan Newcomb and Janet Barrett.
Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. We're your co-hosts, Joan Newcomb, coming to you from Tacoma, Washington, and my partner, Janet Barrett, is coming to you from Portland, Oregon.
Hello, everyone. How nice to be with you again.
We have a delightful show for you today. We are talking about consciousness and appreciating our differences. So today we're going to be discussing the wonder found in diversity. And there's so much conflict and divisiveness in the world today. And consciousness, at its essence, is unity and enjoys focusing into form for the fun of being different individuals with unique perspectives. So stay tuned to discover how we can enjoy the contrasts and appreciate all the variety.
Something that's very, very needed right now, isn't it? So here's an invitation to go deeper with us, to connect with us beyond the show. You can check out our website, www.consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com. And there you can find out all the podcasts, hear all the podcasts from our shows for the last couple of years. You'll find out information about our blogs. Joan writes on Fridays, I write on Mondays about the world and what we're noticing, and great information there. And we've also got all our meetup information, where I do it here in Portland from Tuesdays and Thursdays, and Joan is all over the Puget Sound area in different libraries everywhere. She's great, got all kinds of places. And then you can find out about our sessions, because we both offer sessions in different ways and contexts. So give them all that information about Facebook and Twitter, Joan. There's a lot there, isn't there?
Yes, there is a lot here. I'll tell you some ways to get in touch with us and other forms of social media. We are on Facebook, and I'm listening to heavy breathing. So we're on Facebook, and we're being stalked. That you can find us on the show, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. That's the group on Facebook. You can join the group and join the fun. Janet is on Facebook, Janet Barrett. And I am on Facebook, Joan Newcomb. You can find the show on Twitter. The show is at Joan and Janet on Twitter. Janet is Janet Beyond on Twitter. And I am Joan Newcomb on Twitter. And the show is also on YouTube, so you can find us on YouTube, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. And then you can find me on YouTube as well, but I post my YouTube videos on our website, consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com, every week, so you will never miss them. I do want to let you know some specifics. Janet's meetups are in Portland in the comfort of her lovely home on Tuesday nights and on Thursday afternoons. And my meetups, as Janet said, are around the Puget Sound. The one I have coming up this Saturday, September 30th, is in West Seattle at the Delridge Library. It is Conscious Conversations. It goes from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. It'll be in the meeting room there in Delridge. Those are free to the public. They are open. They're a great way to get an introduction to what it is to be in the space of consciousness. And I also give you a little treat, a little technique to take home with you about how to navigate through this world with greater consciousness. Now, the next Saturday, October 7th, I am in Tacoma, and I'm doing something new. It's a conscious coffee. So it's for people who've already been to these conscious conversations and they want to go a bit deeper. We're going to dive much more deeply into the topics than we can when we're just doing in an introduction with new folks there. So if you've been to them before, it is the Conscious Coffees are going to be a lot of fun. This Saturday, October 7th, we are at the Tully's downtown in their upstairs meeting room. It's at 764 Broadway downtown. And it delivers more information and techniques for navigating your life with greater ownership and seniority. And I do ask $10 for the coffee ones. We're back in University Place, which is south of Tacoma just a little bit, on Sunday, October 22nd, doing another Conscious Conversations at the University Place Library. And so that will be another freebie for those of you who want to get a good taste of what it is like. And then finally, at the end of October, October 29th, I am up in Redmond, and I am doing another Consciousness Masterclass. I did one in Tacoma in August, and actually I also did one in Seattle in August as well. That's actually a class where I intend to teach several techniques. So if you're really excited about this and you want to go deep, come to my Consciousness Masterclass. It's going to be at the Family Pancake House, because it has a meeting room in the back, and it's $10. And it's really an introduction to an online class that I have. So you can actually access it from anywhere, but it's an online class that will have these techniques and will also have a group coaching component. And you can find out more about my coaching programs, 12 Weeks to Transformations and Consciousness Masterclasses, at my website, joan-newcomb.com.
That's a lot of stuff.
That was a lot of stuff. That was a lot of stuff. You know, it's flying right by. So, folks, if you didn't write that down soon enough, you can find out these details on our website, consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com. And also, we recap all this at the end of the show, so stay tuned to the end of the show. If there was a detail that you really wanted to write down, stay tuned, because we'll repeat it all as we're going out at the end of the show.
So we're going to talk about appreciating our differences today. And there is diversity. There's no question about it. And as consciousness, that is what consciousness is all about, really. I mean, if we were all the same, that would be so annoying. So it's about the wonder of diversity. And how do we make it wonderful again, right? That human perspective often doesn't feel good or find it good. But this is what we want to share with everyone, is how to come back to that place where it is about the delight in being. And so, what do you think about that, Joan? The delight of being.
Yeah, and so I echo you, but I also say it in a slightly different way. I have a slightly different perspective of it, which is that as consciousness is unity, and at our essence, we are consciousness. So we are that unity. And then consciousness, we create this reality for the fun and enjoyment of experiencing the opposite of what we essentially are. So that is why this planet is a planet of dichotomies. It is a planet of polar opposites. It's where there's multiple truths, and there is more than one kind of person, place, and thing here. It's for the enjoyment of it. But what happens when we come into form, we have these individual bodies, but we're longing for unity. And so then we project, and we want everybody else to be the same as we are, to have that sense of unity. And that leads to conflict. Conflict is uncomfortable. And it leads to, people trying to make everybody the same, which is kind of missing the point. And, as Janet, you were saying, when we can, how I would say it anyway, when we can relax into being the essence of who we are as consciousness, then we can enjoy all the differences. The thing I notice when I'm looking around is that I can have tremendous love and appreciation for people who are completely opposite than me. I can enjoy the diversity.
I think it comes down to equality, and that we have to extend to others what we would appreciate for ourselves. And whether that's the golden rule or whatever's different in all different kind of religious and spiritual practices, is that we see the other as equal, not as less. and that they too have their unique perspective. And in that, you will have common ground, and you will have different appreciations. And bottom line, it's about being grateful to be here, and how do we make it work? The world has become small enough these days, right, that we are a global community, not only a local community. And maybe that's something that not everyone's can focus on. You know, you always bring that great reference of you're in the arena, or you're in the skybox, or you're in the Goodyear blimp. It's how big you're allowing yourselves to see the connectedness, to see the whole picture. And life is down on the playing field, but it's also this up above, where you see how the playing field is part of the neighborhood, and it's part of the community, and it's part of the location, and all those elements coming together. And for me, that's just about being appreciative of the variety, enjoying and reveling in the diversity that is present. So that's what we're going to talk about, guys. So I guess we'll get to our break, and we'll get back to it, huh?
Yes, so we have to stop for a commercial break, but stay tuned because you're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and we will be talking about consciousness and appreciating our differences when we come right back.
Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you are dealing with? Take a journey into your enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Janet is a subtle energies empath, accessing the field of potential with warmth, humor, and support. She will help you to hear what your inner voice is saying. She will share with you how to appreciate who you are now and offer you new ways to understand and transform your issues. Reach her at www.janetandbeyond.com. That's janetandbeyond.com. Again, janetandbeyond.com. Transformation is possible. You can enjoy new outcomes in your current experiences. They can happen in the blink of an eye. Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan, and we're along here with Janet, and we are talking about consciousness and appreciating our differences.
Yeah, we got them. Might as well enjoy them. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. Otherwise, I think it all works. Right? That's that open attitude that one has to have, is that you're going to have differences, and that's just part of being. And if you're coming from a place of appreciation about that, then you're much more, your energy gets routed differently, right? A lot of people are into resistance, and it's a waste of energy at times to me. And it's like, well, how do we make this work for all of us? And I think that's what we want to be celebrating. How do we make this work for all of us? And, you know, man's history is that it tends to eliminate or kill what it doesn't like, what is different, and marginalize. And, you know, that only goes so far. So We need new approaches.
Yeah, and what we're talking about is a shift of perspective. And for you, Janet, I hear it's about shifting into appreciation. And when you can come from appreciation rather than judgment, I would say, that it's there's a kind of a softening into, but there's an expansiveness that happens as well. And I talk about shifting the perspective to having a greater, broader, higher direction. Doesn't quite work, but shifting your perspective from just you, your personality, and all your identifications, who you are in here and now, to you as consciousness manifesting in your body, through your body, and viewing the world from that greater perspective as the creator of your reality. It changes how you how you see the world, but also how you feel about the world, how you feel about other people. And then I think you really can appreciate even the craziness that's going on. I mean, the craziness, then it really is kind of a reality show that not only can be amusing at times, but has the opportunity to change on a dime, just the way as watching TV shows do during sweeps week. They change the plot, or they change the plot as they're coming to the end of the season. So we're in kind of a sweeps week kind of experience for humanity, don't you think?
Yeah, it's definitely sweeps week. It's sweep clean. It's not about, I turned 63 the other day, and
Happy birthday.
Thank you. And I'm enjoying the flowers here next to the computer. Thank you, Joan. And all those people who sent me a notice on Facebook. Thank you so very much. I did my best to respond and give you a love back. We are consciousness. That's a given to me. We are one. That's a given to me. And we're all at different places in awareness about that. And how to share that those are just the givens. That's what is. And in my world. And I think there's a lot enough hype in history and story in religions and spirituality practices that says that, yes, that's true. So it's not something I question anymore. And what I'm looking at life is how, in my experience of being consciousness, how that is radiating out into the world. And so you're a reflection. Our listeners who I don't even know, those who send me things who I haven't met personally, are me also. They are part of my world. And how I extend myself out into my world and how I, in my physicalness, relate to that information also. So we're experiencing information and being alive on many different levels and many different dynamics. And for me, it's about acknowledging, okay, this is how I'm sensing you. And if we put it in the context of consciousness, which is I understand now about potential, and that how do I interact with you or my neighbor or my husband from that state. This is the way things show up, okay? And if I access that part of myself again, which is always present, it's not out there, I don't have to go anywhere, it's just me shifting awareness to that place, how that helps me to appreciate what I'm in relation to. So now I have an appreciation. It doesn't have to be my viewpoint. It's just a viewpoint. And now I have a different way of engineering, relating to, going, all right, And where's the middle? Where's the polarity in exercise? Where's the rhythm and the flow of information coming and going? And
yeah. So I have a quick question because we've now gone way past something I wanted to touch base on. Because you were talking about people being a reflection. You know, you're talking about people being a reflection, and that's a pretty common thing is that, you know, nothing shows up in your space if it's not a reflection of something inside you. And then you can go, well, everybody around me are other aspects of myself if I am consciousness creating this in the reality. But the thing is that our ego can take that and say, well, that's me too, and that's me too, and you're just there because you're a reflection of and I reframe that because I say that we all have matching pictures or matching experiences, but we are also unique individuals. We will only recognize the reflections. We'll only acknowledge or recognize that in you that is similar to what is in me. And so the language gets difficult because as consciousness, it's creating this reality. And so, I struggle with saying, well, that's a reflection of myself. Because no, it's a reflection of consciousness.
No,
it is right.
Yeah.
So I wanted some clarity with that because, you know, you were way down the river by this time. And it's like that we were leaving people with a sense of the kind of an egoic misunderstanding.
No, it's not that at all. It's because we co-create. So I get to look at, and the reflection part
so I'll jump on that too, but
we co-create. So that if you're going to use the word reflect, and perhaps I did, was not
well, you said that other people were me also, but
we're all one. We're all one. And so if we're all co-creating in that, at places it's going to match up exactly. And you can go, ooh, whoa. And then there's places where it's not, where it's going to be, oh, that's just information. It's all just information. It's all how you want to relate to it. And usually when it wears the face of the husband or the friend or the family, there's a direct, ooh, okay, something to respond, articulate within oneself. The world is full of lots of information, and I get to participate with all that. I think what that's reflecting is the diversity, the spectrum, and how you want to connect in it. So, all right.
Yeah, and so the idea of co-creating, the awareness of co-creating is still perceiving the world at a certain level of interaction. And I think about, so at one level, we are all acting like we are just players in the game. And when you go out into the world, it's like the world is happening to you. And you can have a certain amount of free will because you have choice. So you feel like, well, if I have choice, then I can make this thing different or that thing different. Except that you could choose to go to the grocery store, and the moment you get in your car and get out on the road, everybody else can affect your drive to the store. So, you know, when you're coming from the perspective of co-creating, and you step up to like the level of law of attraction, there's still this interaction that other people can influence your reality, or other people can affect your reality, or other people have more power than you in your reality, in the idea of co-creation. When I come from the step above that, which is consciousness creating everything, and that there's all possibilities within it, then as consciousness, I am just effortlessly shifting from one possibility to another possibility, and there's not even a co-creation part of it.
Well, okay, so how do we explain that you have yours and I have a different parameter, I have a different life experience, I have a different personality, I have differences. So we have differences and they interact, right? And because everything is about relation, how you relate to things. We're all relating into information around us, and we are a state of relating. for me, that's going to be about giving you your power, if you're going to use that word, which is not one that I do, your sense of consciousness. See, mine's not the only sense of that. It's how I come to it. Consciousness is everywhere, and it's, I'm my slice of that. You're your slice of it. And everyone is in their slice of it and level of awareness. And how we interact with each other is what we're looking at. How we relate to each other. So how do we do that in a way that's useful to me, that is not, if I'm saying that you have as much value as I do, then that is a starting place for my sense of, oh, okay, I'm not in my personality. I'm not in my ego about it. I am in my state of consciousness. Oh, all right. All things created equal? I don't know sometimes, because they are an act of creation. Yes. And, so what? Information is present. I give it the value. You give it the value. They give it the value. We all give that value in some way. I'm looking for people to appreciate, but it's not about me. See, this isn't about me. This isn't about me at all. This is about me as consciousness. This is about consciousness showing up in a human interaction and being delighted to be.
Yeah. So you're right. So, it's so interesting because, the show is about appreciating differences, and then you and I have some similarities, but then we have differences in awareness or approaches. And I liked it when you were saying, having value, because when I shift into experiencing the world as consciousness and as consciously creating the world, and whatever effortlessly shows up in my reality is my creation, I can inherently appreciate and value those aspects of consciousness that are in my reality. I can enjoy the creativity. People are so creative with their lives. So and you're right. It's not about me, or it's not me having that reality. It's that other person creating that experience in their reality, and you interpret it differently when you're viewing it as consciousness. So somebody else might not think it's very creative that you've manifested being homeless and living in your car.
Yeah. Right,
kind of thing.
Right,
it's
right,
like,
right.
Wow, that's really creative. Because if you think of it more from like, oh, this is one giant movie and you've just written this part of your script, you're going to be up for an Oscar for the period of time that you chose to live in your car. Right. And I didn't choose living in my car. It happened to me. Well, the greater aspect of you is consciousness created all of this, and it also indicates how capable you are, how capable we are as consciousness to be creating these experiences.
It's and people would it depends upon how you relate to information. So information to me is stories and patterns and things, right? And it's that there's potential first, because that's what consciousness is. It's not anything. It's potential that has in an dynamic interaction, something gets created. Often I will say all roads lead to Rome, right? And so if Rome is consciousness, there's many different ways to be there and be with it and be as it. And you come to the fork in the road and you go, oh my God, which way do I go? And you go one way, and maybe you find out that you wind up in the same place. And you just took this adventure and you could have taken the other adventure, but you wind up in the same place. So there's more than one way to get anywhere. And we want to judge what that shows up as and what that looks like. And we want to say that's bad, that's good, that's mediocre. And that's the human that's reacting in that way. As consciousness, it's going, whoa, this time let's do it like this, and this time let's do it like that. And this time you come to the awareness that it's all the same thing. And if I don't judge any of this, because I don't think consciousness judges at all, I think it just provides. That's what potential is. You get to make out of it what you want, and any of those moments, you could have had a V8. You could have had a moment of awareness, which is such a stunningly beautiful thing to witness with people, where they have their moments of awareness, and they go, oh, all right, got that. Let's go on to the next thing. And, life is beautiful. And in that, there can be great pain and agony and suffering and passion and justice and all kinds of different things. So.
And when you're experiencing it as consciousness, you can see it beyond the pain and discomfort. You can see the bigger picture of it. Yeah. And I was thinking about your terms about all roads lead to Rome, and Rome leads to all roads is another way to think about it. And I was also thinking, you are consciousness whether you realize it or not. And so you can say there's people out in the world that are unconscious, or they're certainly behaving unconsciously, and yet it's all part of conscious creation. And, we can be aghast at the direction they're going in or the direction they're not going in. And it's all part of this wonderful, entertaining world called life. And so looping back to coming from the perspective of consciousness, you can appreciate the crazy, wacky world for what it is, and you can appreciate the differences of each of us.
Yeah, if you take the judgment out, because horrible things can happen, and they are happening, right? And we get to start to. That's what's incredible about this time, I think, in history or civilization or in cosmic history, however you want to view it, because cosmic history is quite short. We're just a blink in the eye. About challenging ourselves to wake up, to say, well, I've just taken this for granted, and I never thought about it, and I didn't realize I took it for granted, and until you have that moment of awareness, and we each get to choose, and that can take tremendous courage. We've been watching the Vietnam show, Ken Burns show, which is just so amazing They've done such a marvelous job at presenting all these different sides of an engagement that took place and how it affected us and the people it was originating from and the rest of the world, and the cost in what our humanity was at stake, and where you want to be with that, and what you want to do, and the choices you make, and how deep into your integrity do you have to go maybe sometimes. And we ask a lot of ourselves, and it's just appreciating the diversity, because too often we use it against ourselves. We use it against each other. And there's no right or wrong in that. That's just the way it's showing up. And so it's up to us in our awareness of ourselves as consciousness that, all right, what do we want to do? And that's it, right?
She yawns, and yeah, I actually, I don't know whether it was something you said, but I found myself floating away, and I thought that was so interesting. What was the point I was trying to hold on to in what you were saying? before I started floating down the lazy river. We exist on all these levels at once. So
Right.
there's an aspect of ourself that exists in the most dense part of it that is right knee deep in the discomfort. And we're really concerned about healthcare and nuclear war and, devastation.
One may take care of the other one.
Right. And then we have proof that there's life after death. So,
right.
So we have that, and then our next level is a little bit more awareness of that we can be spirit in body and interact with other people from kind of a higher awareness level, and then the bigger level of consciousness is I would say is being able to be integrated with all those parts, and even if there is discomfort, not taking it seriously and not taking it life or death as well. If we're not engaged in the life or death part of it, then we really can enjoy the moment that we have.
Well, and I think also that's an update for me. It's not about life and death for me now. It's the awareness, though. It's about birth and death, because life is its thing. And we can't replicate it. If we try to in the labs, we have to use living tissue, living cells. So life is something that we can't make. And it's kind of one of those givens, I think, in what can happen as consciousness. And so you're between birth and death. That's going to be the human reference of consciousness. And how elevated, I think, I love how you're bringing awareness of the discarnated energies, the things that don't have form. It's just information. And as consciousness, you have awareness of all that if you want it, because it's there. And you and I in our work and the people we have met and the incredible information that's out there, just look at the internet, there's all kinds of things floating out there, about how we relate to, I'm going to call it information. So it's not a thing. It doesn't have a body, and some people are going to be into angels and aliens and all that. And I make no judgments about that, because I appreciate that we all have different sensory mechanisms and in our creations of how information shows up. And, in consciousness, it's timeless. There is no time or space. So the past is now, and it's the future, and the future's now, and it's the past, and all you have is now. And as I open my awareness up, my limited human awareness, into my realization that, we're playing much bigger here, and that's me as consciousness, all there is diversity. There's bits and pieces floating around, and I can feel this in my physicalness, and I can be swayed by that. I may be able to attach a human sensory to it as something I see or feel or hear. But often what we're working from is that place of knowing, that claircognizant awareness, if you're into metaphysical terms, of where there is an awareness. And that's all it is. That's the only form it has, is an awareness. It has no physicality. It has no nothing. And you just go, there's a body of information there, and I only use that word because you see how limited we are in our languages, that there's information, and it's here, and it's there, and it's everywhere, and they're all subject to my allowing them to be real and present and stuff. So.
I just remembered where I had started spacing out before. You were talking about the Civil War. You were talking about the Civil War. You were watching. War. Oh, you know what? You were talking about the Vietnam War, but I went to the Civil War. So no wonder. No, because he did one on the Civil War originally. So I wasn't even in Vietnam. I was in 1860. So that's where I floated off, because I was thinking about back east. There's all these battlefields, and how there is still the resonances
Yeah.
There's these patterns that transcend time and space.
Right.
So I completely mismatched with what you were talking about, and suddenly I wasn't there anymore because I was so that's
You traveled in time. There you went.
I traveled in time and I came back and went, I'm really confused. So there are patterns that make up this reality, like you were talking about too. It's like morphic fields or whatever. There are patterns of conflict that make up this reality, and they not transcend time and space, but the patterns ripple through time and space. It's a little bit like it's like looking at the geological strata in the earth, and you can dig down and see, particles from the portions and pieces from the Roman times, and down below there's portions and pieces from the Jurassic era. And it happens energetically as well. So I think we unconsciously carry over these patterns of conflict from what was energetically structuring reality from before. And where we can transform that, because I think we're doing things like, the Worldwide Women's March, and we're trying to do things to change that, and where and how we can change that is by shifting to awareness that we are consciousness, and then that completely not disintegrates the patterns, but it moves us into it shifts us over into a different vibratory awareness where those patterns exist.
What you're talking about is the vibrational, the resonances and frequencies and vibrations that make up everything. And they're the unseen quality, right? And you can track where they've been, but we don't see ourselves usually in those contexts. And that's one way we get past the labels, because you're also talking about how we label things. And then we know the power of mind being that you label something and then there it is. And then we make it real. And we have a thought, and that forms how we see, how we observe things. And we're not about observing things. We are, which is what humans do, because eyesight is so important with how we formulate things. We notice things. And when you open up yourself to being as consciousness, you're noticing in a much broader context all the different flavors. And if we see a person and we look at him in terms of vibratory information, all of a sudden he isn't what he was. He is now something different to interact with. And maybe it's not as threatening, or maybe your labeling of it, are you going to judge that over this, or this over that, and how it relates to this? Yeah, it doesn't really work in that premise. And so maybe that's where consciousness is so vital and so embraced right now, is that we see free of what our eye notices. And we look, we observe, but we go beyond that. We're noticing more the texture, the quality of the being, and then we see it beyond the being, where it's broken down into just frequencies and vibrations and information. And what happens in that? Whoa, so much can happen in that. That's a beautiful place to be living life at, I think. And that's the key to getting out of the labels.
Yes. Wonderful, wonderful final words for this portion, because we need to take another commercial break. So I want to remind folks that you're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan. I'm along here with Janet, and we are talking about consciousness and appreciation, our differences, and we will be right back after these messages.
Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe
so
you are
like,
too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs. Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you are dealing with? Take a journey into your enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Janet is a subtle energies empath, accessing the field of potential with warmth, humor, and support. She will help you to hear what your inner voice is saying. She will share with you how to appreciate who you are now and offer you new ways to understand and transform your issues. Reach her at www.janetandbeyond.com. That's janetandbeyond.com. Again, janetandbeyond.com. Transformation is possible. You can enjoy new outcomes in your current experiences. They can happen in the blink of an eye.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan. I'm along here with Janet, and we have been talking about consciousness and appreciating our differences. Is there anything else left to say about this? Have we milked it dry, or oh no, there's more coming. There's more. What else do you have to say, Janet?
Well, let me see. What do I notice? What do I notice? I notice there's a lot of sound out there.
Yes.
And it's a matter of refining the tuning that's available or not available. It's maybe indicating our sensitivities or in our shift or something. One thing for people who come to group here or clients is they come from that diversity of background, and it's not for me to judge, because as soon as I judge how creative they're being in their life and as they're being, I'm not helpful, and I'm just more of the same. And when we work with people, we can notice that in our jobs, but it's really just about how we are in our lives and being open to what shows up and allowing for something different and noticing that something different. And then I get to decide, do I like that, or does that have to happen, or is it a one-time deal? Because so often life and how we hold ourselves in it is all that static that you and I are noticing from different sources. And it dumbs us down. It blocks information. And it may be for the individual to experience, but maybe doesn't have the skill set to be different with it. So it's interesting.
Yes, it is. I have an invitation for folks to go deeper with us and connect with us beyond the show. Our website is consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com, and there you can listen to all of our podcasts. So if you're new to us, you can listen to our old shows there, or if you have listened to us before and want to go back and find the juicy one that you got so much insight, go to consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com. You can also read our blogs. Janet and I write new blogs every week of interesting perspectives of the world today. We also have meetups, and Janet has her meetup in her lovely home in Portland. Is that Southeast Portland? near
Yep.
Reed College.
Yep.
It's a really gorgeous house, really, really gorgeous. And she does such a fabulous job with holding a big energy space for folks to completely transform. So that's Tuesday nights and Saturday afternoons.
Thursday afternoons.
Oh, thank you. Thursday afternoons, because I am channeling again. So here, and more about our sessions. We're also on Facebook. You can find the show on Facebook, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. You can also find Janet on Facebook, Janet Barrett. You can find me on Facebook, Joan Newcomb. We're on Twitter, and we have 3 different Twitter handles. It's at Joan and Janet for the show. It is at Janet Beyond for Janet, and I am at Joan Newcomb, just to keep it simple. The show is also on YouTube, so if you like YouTube and you want to binge listen to us on YouTube, it's Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and I'm on YouTube as well. You can get my weekly Mystic Minutes, I call them. You can watch them on the website, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Yeah, and that Twitter, because I'm new to Twitter, what it's getting every day is I have a consciousness cookie that I put out on Facebook. I think we're getting it switched to LinkedIn automatically in Twitter. So every day I'm offering an insight about consciousness, and whether it's my own writing or it's all the wonderful classics that are out there from information everywhere. And this is why we love diversity, right?
Yes.
Because information will come to you in lots of different ways. Sign up and get that little bit of reminder daily. It's a good stuff to have.
You know, it kind of reminds me of truly unique thoughts from the universe. Mike Dooley. So yeah, it's a wonderful little reminder, a little point of insight. I want to really quick let people know about my meetups. I have them around the Puget Sound. My one coming up this weekend is in West Seattle. That is Saturday, September 30th. It's from 3 to 5 p.m. at the West Seattle Library, the Delridge Library on Delridge Way. That is Conscious Conversations, and it is a free one for you to participate in and have a deeper conversation. I have a different meetup on Saturday, October 7th. It is in Tacoma. It's also from 3 to 5 p.m., but that is a conscious coffee, and I am holding it in the upper meeting room of Tully's Coffee in downtown Tacoma, a wonderful historic building. And that's $10 because the coffee's shop conversations are going to be a lot of aspect of teaching. And then we're back in University Place on the 22nd, Saturday 22nd at the University Place Library. And then on Sunday, October 29th, we're going to be up in Redmond, and I'm going to be holding a consciousness masterclass in the meeting room at the back of the Family Pancake House there. It's also $10. That's why I do them in meeting rooms or coffee shops to keep the expense down. And you can get some deeper techniques for navigating reality.
Lots of diversity in places that you can get information, huh?
Lots of different ways. So if you want to know more, also if you want to know more about the things that I do, I have pages on my website, joan-newcomb.com, about my coaching programs. I have an opening a private coaching program right now, which is 12 weeks to transformation. And that way you can get my undivided attention as well as my unique techniques for navigating reality. I can hold space for you for 12 weeks to completely transform your life.
Take it up, guys. Why not? You know? What would it be like? What to be open to doing that? To know that that's real. And that is real. So, good job. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, it's gotten quiet.
It has. The other thing I want to remind people is that talking about co-creating, like you said, Janet, is that it doesn't matter what time or space you're listening to this. If you're listening to it live or in the future, you are actually, your energy is here and now in creating this in the moment as well. So we so appreciate your being here.
It makes all the difference, doesn't it? We thank you all for being here with us. Yeah.
You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan, along here with Janet, and tune in next week, same time, same channels.
You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. And thanks so much for helping to co-create the show, no matter if you're listening live or on demand. You energetically contribute to our collective experience. Joan and Janet love to hear from you and invite you to email your comments and ideas for them to explore each week. Contact them at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Tune in next week for another great show, and until then, keep enjoying this wonderful adventure we call life.